Oh, which aspect, So I'm Kohta Ueno. I assume you want me to speak into the camera. Let's see. This is
arrange ourselves differently.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Configuration is probably the easiest way. Just
Sure, you bet. Speak into these cameras. That's a live mic. That's your mic.
That's live mic. Your live mic.
Yep, right here.
Is on your left.
Okay.
Don't pay attention to the mics in those devices because they are no good.
Okay, gotcha.
Look, I need to synchronize this thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Or do I need to do that on camera? Or? I'm Kohta Ueno. I'm a senior associate at Building Science Corporation, an enclosure or building shell consulting firm out of the Boston area. Building Science Corporation, or BSC as it's typically known, was founded by Joe Stiebrick. He's a pretty well-known authority in this field. He has been referred to, probably rightly, as the Dean of North American Building Science, or at least in his generation. I had the good fortune of joining the company back in 1998, and that's been pretty much my career run since then, minus a brief stint in grad school. Did you want me to just do that one more time, or?
No, that's okay. We will only use a small portion of that, just to be fair. So even if it's that portion without light, it's still good enough.
So you want me to just continue? The stuff that I do at Building Science Corporation, BSC as a company made its bones on building forensic investigations, going to screwed up buildings of all kinds, figuring out what the problem is, and offering up solutions. And these investigations, or forensic investigations, vary all over the place. Everything from a basic water leak, although it's not that common, to way more complicated, strange ones. For instance, sure, it leaks, but not on days that it rains. So, we're the ones who are figuring out, sure, the rain is hitting the outside brick, the sun comes out, blasts the moisture through the brick, condenses on the cold surface inside, on the air conditioning system, drips down on the ceiling inside. We also use this experience on the front end, looking at buildings when they're still on paper, doing plan reviews, trying to look for problematic details that we've seen fail before, and make recommendations on, we'd recommend against doing that, possibly this material, this assembly, etc., instead as a alternate. We've also done many research projects, typically for the Department of Energy's Building America project. It's a DOE-funded effort that tries to improve the energy efficiency of residential housing throughout the country. So we did that for well over a decade, researching topics as varied as exterior continuous insulation, foam sheathing on the outside of a wall, double stud walls, unvented roofs, various HVAC systems, ventilation systems, multifamily air tightness between units, a wide variety of topic. All of those studies are available for free, your tax dollars at work, on the web.
Wonderful. How long time have you been doing it?
I've been with the firm since 1998. Minus a brief stint in graduate school. So, my origin story, as I put it, is, no, I was not bitten by a radioactive Joe Stiebrick. My background is, I did my undergrad degree, was completely burned out after that, but what I really enjoyed during that time was small construction projects. So I went ahead and hung up my shingle for a little while, doing, small contractor, messy little kitchen remodels, bathroom work, tiling, cabinets, outlets, the whole works. Learned a heck of a lot, incredibly interesting, except I'm a terrible businessman and I ended up living in my parents' basement. So after a little bit of that, I was watching an episode of Nova on PBS, and my current boss, Joe Stiebrick, was one of the speakers. It was the episode called Can Buildings Make You Sick? And he was talking about his diagnosis of the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles building. And I said, that sounds like a kind of interesting career path. Cold called them, and Betsy Pettit of BSC, the other principal, answered the phone, and it turned out that they were looking for an entry-level person right then and there. Incredibly lucky. The other stroke of luck is that the ideal background for this field is basically, an engineer or somebody who has a decent technical background, is not intimidated by, numbers, graphs, etc., but also has a solid grounding in construction, knowing, how do you actually cut drywall? How does it get attached to the studs? What goes inside the stud bays? Ultimately, the wire to that outlet has to go all the way down the house to where the service entry comes in. That kind of, level of construction knowledge experience. And like I said, that combination is pretty much a great background for this field. So I did that for a bunch of years. Then I was incredibly fortunate to be doing a job at BSC where John Straub, who's a professor at the University of Waterloo, he also ran a consulting company, and he was sub-consulting to our research work. And, as we were wrapping up the project, John said, Kohta, when are you coming up to Waterloo to do your master's degree? And I said, I'm, not attached, I don't have a mortgage? Yeah, sure, I'm game for that. So basically, I, spent 3 years working for John Straub, getting my dose of Canadianness, which is a requisite for all good building scientists, and basically returned to the same company.
And what was your background? What was your education before you joined Bill?
So my educational background before that, undergrad at MIT, material science, concentrating towards metallurgy. Honestly, it was never a very good fit. I'm one of those, somebody has to make, the bottom 50% of the class possible. I was probably up there. So, basically, I know practical things despite MIT, not because of it.
Wonderful. It went exceptionally well.
Oh.
Do you want to add anything?
I don't know if you wanted to talk about, I don't know what your goals are for this talk. What you want to talk more about the type of work that we do, the jobs we do. You tell me what topics are, that
we are
useful.
Trying to capture the condition of the industry.
Okay.
Or what you believe, what is your subjective view of the industry, the way it works with different disciplines. There are certain areas which are not perhaps covered sufficiently. There are no man's land here and there. I believe you and your company, or Joe's and Betsy's company, is uniquely positioned in similar ways, so that we also perhaps worth emphasizing, right? Not quite on the mechanical side of things, not quite on architectural, not quite structural, not quite civil. You are somewhere between those different realms, including academia, commercial, building codes. So it would be interesting to put some light, to shed some light on that.
Yeah, let me just think which angle of attack I should take on this.
Are you doing it?
Yeah.
I will snap a picture.
Oh, okay.
Switch it off temporarily. Don't get distracted. It is kind of a running for the president type of a picture. Just take it this way. Oh, now it's much better. We are back to normal.
Yeah, I'm still formulating a little bit about the research consulting background.
questions do you think I should ask Joe Stroh?
John Straub. Oh my gosh.
Or
The thing is, you could literally ask him anything, and he would have both an intelligent and incredibly witty and amusing answer. So, I guess the question is, what would what are the holes in your documentary that you think he might do a good job of filling in? I guess, like,
how about Joe Stroh? Joe Stieber.
Oh, Joe Stiebrick.
Would it be easier to ask questions, formulate questions for him?
You might want to give him a few things to bite down on, because once again, Joe can rant on whatever like you can give him the choice. That's one option. Like, Joe, is there something you'd like to rant about that you want to include in this documentary as choice A? And he might have something just off the top of the head, like, why yes, I'd like to talk about this, this, and this. Or you might want to give him like a seed to kind of pull from, like. One thing he's been talking about recently, one of his big catchphrases is "there is no thermodynamic free lunch." Just the whole chunk of history of the problems that came out of energy efficiency programs going way back, because that is that actually would be he's probably talked about that before, but that would be a great topic because he's literally authority back to the 1980s, Canadian energy efficiency, not Enercan, whatever the R2000 program, all these things that basically are, grandfathers of many of the things that are just, off the shelf. We know how to do this nowadays.
Yeah, that's his fate is sealed.
Yeah. You could also ask him about, one of the more challenging questions I've been asked are like, what's the most interesting investigation? What's the weirdest investigation? That kind of thing. So, yeah. And like, I was stymied for a while. Like, if you want, I can tell you the story of my strangest one, or,
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, are we rolling all right?
It's rolling.
Okay. Okay, so one of the stranger investigations I have actually. Sorry, how long do you want this? Like, I can compress, or
You are not going to beat Mark Wahlberg. I believe he stretched it for 3 hours.
Oh my God!
I still want to more.
So one of the stranger investigations I've done, called up by the owner of a strip mall in Massachusetts. They have multiple properties inside their building, including a restaurant space, a furniture store, pet store, a few other, usual retail kind of things. And he was in a panic because his restaurant is complaining. Every once in a while, I get my restaurant complains of this terrible odor, like poop toilet odor, and it's literally driving out the patrons. They're saying, I can't eat in this place, it's disgusting, I'm leaving. And, we've gone back, tried to find it, and the problem is it's intermittent, so we're wandering around there and we can't find it. So they have no idea where it's coming from. So, they hired BSC to come look at the problem. So, the first thing that we did is what we tried to figure out what the pressure relationships are. Basically, which way are the fans in the building blowing, and they would tend to move air from space A to space B to space C, that kind of thing. So we're tooling around this restaurant. There are many fans involved in that, including the range hood, basically what's sucking off the hot gases and hot oil from the burners and sending that outside. At the same time, whenever you're doing that, you want to provide what's called makeup air, the air that's to make up for what's being pulled out. So that's typically preheated, possibly pre-cooled, and fed into the kitchen to make up for what's being sucked out, and you have pretty much a continuous cycle. One of the first things I figured out is I was doing some measurements and measuring the restaurant space and going, it is at an incredibly negative pressure. It means that we're ejecting more air than we're putting in. In short, this restaurant sucks. It's trying to pull in air from other spaces. So that would be a definite pathway for this problem to happen. If there's a problem somewhere else in the building, it'll suck it in from there. So one of the first things that I figured out is that whole makeup air system, the one that feeds the air that's making up for the exhaust, entirely disconnected. The fan belt was just flopping around, the motor was just spinning, doing nothing. So step one, I thought I had the problem solved, went home. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later I got the call, no, the odor's back, sorry Kohta. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Start looking in the other spaces that we would be sucking on. My first thing, like, oh, there's a pet store nearby. That sounds like poop odors could come from there. I've dealt with puppies. But, not fine. Of course what has to happen is the odor needs to be stronger in that space in order to get sucked in to the other space. I'm wandering around there. The spots where they're cleaning out kennels is nowhere near where any of the sucking would happen. It doesn't smell that bad. It doesn't seem like it's a disaster at all. So that's basically a strikeout. Then later on, I figured out that, okay, one of the restaurant guys told me, the spot where it comes in the worst is the back storeroom. Like, okay, great clue. Always listen to the folks who are living with the problem. They might not know the why, they might not know the science behind it, but they are vital to giving you the clues that might answer the problem. So, go into this, back storeroom, sniff around, look around, no obvious clues at all, other than looking at the floor plan saying, okay, these two rooms are on the other side of this wall, this space is on above the ceiling, one of these is probably the culprit. Move into the room that's behind that wall. It's a office for the furniture store on the first floor, and I'm up on a ladder inside the suspended ceiling, and I am just at my wit's end. I've tried all sorts of tests, all sorts of fan techniques to try to pull odors out of various spots. Nothing, not a thing. I'm just basically sitting up on a ladder, just staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do next. Then all of a sudden, somebody flushes a toilet upstairs. I'm going like, oh, that smells terrible! Awesome! And it turns out that, basically I had my coworker say, like, go up to the second floor to the bathroom up there and flush a toilet again. Flushes it, and the odor comes right back. It's like, okay, we have a clue. This might be what's going on. So basically, we do a few more flushes trying to figure out where it's coming from. And, I'm looking at the piping, it's above my head, I'm standing on top of the ladder, basically going by feel. I'm reaching above my head, and the guy's continuing to flush so I can continue to suck in horrible odors, and I'm looking at the top of the cast iron pipe and oh weird, there's a groove on the top of this cast iron pipe. There shouldn't be a groove on the top of a cast iron pipe. Hold my camera, flash, snap. The entire cast iron pipe had cracked at the top, basically being a complete pathway for sewer gases and poop odors to fly right out of the pipe, but it doesn't leak any water because the crack is on top. So basically every time somebody flushed a toilet, poop odors were ejected into that suspended ceiling. The restaurant pulled this negative pressure, pulled it from that ceiling into the restaurant storeroom, into the restaurant space, pissed off customers. Answer solved. It was one of the weirder, more convoluted investigations I've done.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for sharing the story. Who is the next person that we interview? Nominations?
Yeah, if I can throw my coworker under the bus. Peter Baker is my colleague at this firm. I can point him out to you. I can refer to him as the water control rock star. Yeah, he is basically one of those. He has both an immense amount of experience as well as a hell of a lot of intuition on where the water leaks come from and how to avoid it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Karol.
It's been a pleasure, and you have excellent presentations.
Well, my joke has always been is my two mentors